Anyone who's watched me over the years knows that I'm obsessed with Hydrolyte. In my opinion, the best oral rehydration product on the market. I literally use it every day. My family uses it. When I had COVID, I'm telling you, Hydrolyte contributed to my recovery, kept me hydrated. Now, with things finally reopening back around the country, the potential exposure to the common cold is always around. And like always, Hydrolyte has got your back. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity, my new favorite, starts with their fast-absorbing electrolytes and adds a host of great ingredients. Plus, each single-serving easy-pour drink mix contains 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, 300 milligrams of elderberry extract. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity comes in convenient, easy-to-pour sticks that rapidly dissolve in water, make a great-tasting drink, has 75% less sugar than your typical sports drink, uses all-natural flavors, gluten-free, dairy-free, caffeine-free, non-GMO, and even vegan. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity is also now available in ready-to-drink bottles at the Walmart next to the pharmacy, or as always, you can find it by visiting hydrolyte.com/Dr. Drew. Again, that is HYDRALYTE.com/DRDREW. Be sure to use the code Dr. Drew 25 for a special discount. I want to give a shout out to our good friends at Blue Mics. If you've heard my voice on this show any time over the past year, including right now, you've been listening to Blue microphones. And let me tell you, after more than 30 years in broadcasting, I don't think I have ever sounded better. But you don't need to be a pro or have a fancy studio to benefit from a quality mic. You may not realize it, but if you've been working from home or using Zoom to chat with friends, you probably spend a lot of time in front of a microphone. So why not sound your best? Whether you're doing video conferencing, podcasting, recording music, or hosting a talk show, Blue has you covered. From the USB series that plugs right into your computer to XLR professional mics like the Mouse or the Blueberry we use in the studio right now. Bottom line, there's a Blue microphone to fit your budget and need. I can't say enough about Blue mics, and once you try one, you will never go back. Trust me. To take your audio to the next level, go to drdrew.com/blue. That is drdrew.com/BLUE.
Hey everyone, it's a dose of Dr. Drew.
It is indeed. Thank you guys for being here. We are, of course, restreaming, and we're going to be out on Clubhouse in a few minutes. But right now, I want to introduce my guest. We're going to take a little bit of a different topic, well, quite a bit different topic today. Guest is Jeremy Murphy. His book is F Off Chloe. And Jeremy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I thought I had to just do what interviewers do, and let's talk about the book first off. Your history is kind of interesting, and it's reflected in this book. So tell us that story.
Well, I'm a journalist by training, and I worked for newspaper, magazines. Then I pivoted to PR, and I went to CBS television, where I was 14 years, climbed the ladder, company spokesperson, well, one of many, editor, vice president, and then I turned 40 and I said, you know what, I want to own something. I want to do something for myself. And I started a PR firm, 360 Bespoke, and have been doing that for 5 years and started this book over COVID. And now it's coming out.
It's got to be an interesting time to be in PR. That's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today, because it's different. It's very different than it's ever been. Now I know we'll talk about the whole Chloe construct in a minute, but
right.
But I don't.
He froze.
What's the matter? He froze? Oh goodness, there he's back. I almost get the feeling that the PR community is still trying to decide how to do PR. In the current
there are a
world.
lot of trends, and you know what? The big trend I'm finding is not being able to write. I have like 7 firms who outsource material to me. PR is storytelling. And we take the client's story and we tell it to a journalist, and that's through the written word. And a lot of people can't do that anymore. And a lot of it is, slanguage, and you get a younger generation that doesn't know how to tell a story. And so a lot of it is emoticons and not even, not punctuation,
right.
Not full sentences.
Right.
And a lot of people think PR is just, throwing their hair back at a cocktail party with a clipboard, and no, that's not PR.
Yeah, but isn't much of PR now sort of dealing with crisis, and I have no other way of characterizing it except fake news?
Yeah, I mean, we used to say we tell the truth slowly.
Wow.
I'm very fortunate right now that Unfortunately, right now I have clients that are actually positive. They're artists, they're luxury brands. So there is no crisis. I'm just telling their story and promoting what new products they have. But yeah, a lot of it is crisis control, spinning, controlling the narrative, getting out before a story hits, manipulating it so it's the best for your client. So, I like to think as a journalist that I'm helping reporters because, I know how to tell a story, and I know journalists only want to they used to only want to report the truth. Now you can make that argument, but it has changed dramatically.
Yeah. I'm just curious how, given that the truth, well, first of all, we live in this weird preoccupation with French philosophers from 75 years ago, the post-structuralist, which mandate that truth doesn't exist. And in the sort of critical theory time when objectivity is gone and there's strictly subjectivity and political, I don't understand what happens to PR in the middle of all that, because I've been I can't even count all the times now when you say something on Twitter, it gets twisted into something else, then it gets spit out as fake news and has nothing to do with where the story started. What's PR supposed to do with that except try to chase it? But then they're not interested in the response. They're really interested in the bloodletting.
Well, it's all about clickbait. A lot of these online platforms, they get money from advertisers based on how many people click the articles. And the more sensational, the more grabbing gets the most eyeballs, and then advertisers pay more for that. So, these platforms are profit-making businesses, right? No one's in it for altruism anymore. So a lot of these, that's the new formula. You put a Kardashian in a headline, you put something tawdry, and people are going to click on it, and now they can monetize it. And that's really what it's come down to. It's kind of like a Lord of the Flies, whoever can get the most eyeballs and be the most shocking will get the most money.
So I'm wondering how you fight that. I mean, isn't PR about trying to push back on that or regain a higher ground or truth or something? Is it just chasing it?
I think you just make a choice of how you want to participate. Like for me, it was a conscious decision. I only wanted to work with positive brands and artists. Like I have a classical musician, I have an opera singer, I have a florist, I have a beauty brand. And that to me is very fulfilling because they're doing something positive. They're making people's lives richer. They're selling something that is beneficial. There's really no scandal. I don't have to shut down stories. I don't have to deny things. I'm just promoting what they're doing. So, but you do have to make a choice. You can choose to be on the other side and to do the crisis and spin and celebrity thing, or you can go into a corporation and do that. No one has a gun to their head. It's really, you choose what you want to do.
I've got a Restream chat going here, and they have questions for you. They want to know how much of corporate PR practice intersects with military and public health. Does that make sense?
Yes. So it really depends on what vertical you're in. Like, every pharmaceutical brand, every healthcare brand has somebody internally who does the corporate communications function. So a Pfizer or Merck, they have their people who deal with press and crisis control. And same with the military. The military has PIO officers or public information officers, and they're contractors, whether it's Lockheed Martin or whatever, they have PR people too. So every entity has a press function, and that exists to tell their story, to put their best narrative out there, and to defend them against bad stories.
All right, let's flip over to the book. F off Chloe. Who is Chloe?
So Chloe is it's an overgeneralization of this new breed of young Gen Zers, and I'm not saying all of them, who come into the workplace and want a trophy for coming to work. They're very entitled, and they've been told they're superstars all their lives. No one ever told them different, and they think that whatever they say deserves an audience and a coronation. And then they come into the workplace and they expect that. They're looking at the corner office. They want a raise. They want a business card, even though they would never use it. And so I call them Chloes. I call them Chloes because, I had sent a very detailed strategy email to all this whole group, and someone named Chloe replied back and she said, TL or LOL. And I didn't know what that meant. And so I went on Google and TLDR means too long, didn't read. And I was like shocked. I was so angry. And then I'm like, wait a minute, this is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. And the person's name was Chloe. So I was like, all right, that's the name I'm going to use.
Perfect.
That's so funny.
It is funny.
Oh my God, you should see the list. It's so funny.
But we talking about Gen Z?
Oh my God.
Or are we talking about millennials? Because Gen Z's aren't really in the workplace yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crossbreed between both. I mean, some of them, I mean, I never know. Every time I hear the definition of the demographic, the ages change. But it's like the 23, 24-year-old who, they have self-esteem in abundance because no one has ever told them anything different than they're a star.
Right. Yeah.
And they come to the workplace and, I'm fascinated by young people who still talk to their parents every day. Like, I was never friends with my parents. Like, I'm the last person my mom wants to hear from every day.
Right.
And these people, they call their parents every day, and their parents care what they're saying.
That's interesting.
Which amuses me.
It is interesting.
I got it.
I'm looking at popular baby names from 1989 to 1992 to see where Chloe sits on the list.
They're all named Chloe for some reason.
It's really interesting because I'm going to see what sort of age group we're zeroing in on here. Courtney, Kayla, Melissa, Tiffany, Lauren, Ashley. Wait a minute, I'm going to go back. They may be a little younger. You might be right. Maybe more like 1995.
That's so funny.
And so you put together, one of the things that's in the book is this list of sort of rejoinders to Chloe, which Susan was regaling me with in bed this morning and laughing her ass off.
And one of them actually is kind of funny because I did it to Jeremy yesterday by accident. So.
I'll call you back.
But he didn't.
I'll get back to you. So, Susan, you were a harbinger of generations to come. Who knew that a boomer could be like a Chloe?
I was jet lagged.
I should have known. You were ahead of your time. I knew it. I knew you were ahead of your time. I'll get back to you. You will not, right?
No, I did.
But that's one of the rejoinders is that they will not get back to you.
No one's getting back to you. The check is not in the mail. You're not on the radar. You can buy that kind of publicity. There are stupid questions. Not everybody's special. Not everybody's talented.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to start the book with let's just get down to basics. This is what you need to know to enjoy this book. The office manager is looking through your desk. Okay, the IT guy is smarter than you. The assistant does want your job. Let's just be honest. Let's just start with an honest place.
You actually though say something here that is rather politically incorrect, I would say, and a little bit provocative. Which diversity is window dressing. Yes,
having been in a corporation. I have seen this where, a lot of companies, I really believe the CEOs want to do a good thing. I really believe that, if you ask anybody, they really want to provide opportunity for everybody. The problem is, it's a short-term thing. All these organizations, the woke police and progressive organizations, they're so quick to judge and they grade people. Oh, you get an F for diversity. Well, give the company some time, give them a chance to, invest in recruitment and education and intern programs and whatnot. The problem is everybody wants things now. So what happens is companies just put on window dressing. They hire minorities just to say, oh, look how many minorities we have, but they're doing a disservice. You hire someone and you're not giving them the tools to succeed, you're just going to be a token.
True.
Is that true of most companies, you think, or that you've just seen companies where they behave like that?
I think most companies are forced to do it because it's now. And,
well, in California, it's the law. They break the law if they don't do it. So they are forced is the word. But again, we'll see how they do that. You shouldn't have signed that. What does that mean?
a lot of people sign away their rights. You know, when you start a job, like you know, it's in your employment papers, and all of a sudden, you know, you can't breathe. Like anything you do when you start a company, even your off hours, the company owns. So it was kind of a joke, like, you know what, don't sign it,
Right?
or at least read, and no one reads. So that was kind of a joke of like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that.
And you seem to have a problem with power outages and battery dying.
Oh, that's an excuse. Like everybody's like, oh, my phone ran out of energy. No, it didn't. Or, oh, there was a power outage. No, there wasn't. My favorite is, I don't have the bandwidth for that. If I hear that one more time, I'm going to scream.
Oh,
Okay,
I've
you
heard
have
that.
the bandwidth. You just don't want to do it.
No, our PR person said that to me right before she got fired. I'm not kidding.
How dare you?
And it was like, what are you talking about? I just wanted somebody to make a phone call.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
exactly.
Is the goal of this book to prepare millennials and Gen Zers for the workforce, to help them sort of adjust their attitude, so to speak?
No, it's actually the opposite. It's for people like me to survive the Chloes.
Oh.
Because they are absolutely ruining the industry. They're taking the fun out of it. So it's basically a humor book about the cultural divide, but written for people like me who have to deal with this new breed and have to exist on the same planet as they do. And all of a sudden the rules are changing. You know, it used to be that you went into a company and you adapted by the company rules. Well, now companies are adapting by these people's rules.
So what should you have to survive the career in media other than this book?
Let's see, a pain threshold. You shouldn't believe in humanity anymore. A liquor cabinet stocked.
What was the duct tape for?
You know, just to like,
everybody should have
shut
duct
someone
tape.
Up.
That's a
Like
survival
in
instinct.
case somebody misbehaves on an airplane.
No, it's
Exactly.
survivalist. If you're a survivalist, you have duct tape. It's just rational thinking. Like it's not. Everybody should have duct tape.
Or if you
I'm
want
white
to shut
trash.
someone up.
That's true.
How has the book been received? Are people? I mean, I'm wondering more how the Gen Zers and the millennials are receiving it, because sometimes you know, what comes to mind for me is when I walked out of the theater after seeing Book of Mormon, I literally ran into 3 different Mormon practitioners who all went, they nailed us. They just got us. It was so funny. It's so right. They were so right on. But of course, Mormons have a great sense of humor. How has Gen Z and millennial been about this?
Oh, well, you know, if I go missing, it's going to be a Chloe. I don't think they're happy with it. But it's not for them. It's for people like me. And
Chloe, I
everybody
love it.
who has read it said it's profane, it's inappropriate, but it's hysterical, and you nailed it.
And is it a fictional story, or are you just sort of describing situations? Like,
oh yeah, it's a humor book. I have lists of like how to be woke and reasons why PR people drink, and then there's one of reasons you should call HR, but it'll backfire on you and you'll get fired, so maybe not. You know, it's humor, but it's basically it's an observation of the media workplace and everything we're dealing with, and how people like me, how we joke. You know, we have gallows humor. We have, you know, we're sarcastic, we're bitter, and it's kind of like a way for us to bond because everybody is dealing with a Chloe.
So interesting that you guys have devolved. I don't consider it devolution necessarily. That's being harsh. I think gallows humor is sometimes a good sign, in the sense that it bonds those of you that are in the trenches together. It also suggests you're doing difficult work, because you know. I would imagine, I'm sure the Chloes get the benefit of some of the gallows humor, but I imagine it's also your clients.
Yeah, I mean the clients are fun. You know, they're paying the bills and they don't understand media. That's why they hire us. And some of the things that they ask for is just right for comedy. You know, they don't understand what a high-res photo is, or why can't I see the article before it goes in the paper, or you're going to get me in the New York Times, right?
Yeah, right.
I didn't say that. Actually, you did. You were on air.
Oh my gosh, my daughter just wrote a book, and I didn't want to be like the PR person, and I had other people set it up, but I also wanted to help her like get an idea of what she had to do, and I had to take her down the road, and it was like she didn't really have an idea of what to do, because like I've been doing PR for Drew for a really long time. I do all his damage control. I don't do a great job, but he gets it for free. So, but honestly, like there's so much to know. Like today, it was like I don't have a headshot. And I was like so thankful that you had one easily. A lot of people don't. They don't have a headshot of themselves in their phone. And you're like, okay, but you better get one. So go get your camera out and do it. So, and there's just little things like that are so important if you're going to be an Instagram star or something, that's why Instagram stars become Instagram stars, because they're good at it.
Absolutely.
But the PR part of it, like people don't really understand. Maybe you can kind of explain a little bit more fully, like if somebody just wrote a book, what it is that they have to pursue, and what that means PR wise for themselves, and how a PR person comes in.
PR is storytelling in the finest form, and what you're doing is you're trying to get a journalist interested in what you're doing, whether it's a book, whether it's a TV show, whether it's a new product. So you have to figure out, what does a journalist want? What is a journalist writing about? What are the trends? Why is this interesting or better than anything else? And then you bring that to the journalist, and you hope they like it. But clients don't know media, and that's why they hire us. And so we are guiding them. We're telling them, okay, you need this, you need that. You don't say this, say this. Don't do that. We're kind of like the filter of how they can go through media.
Exactly. You know who could have really used a PR person was Dr. Zelenko.
Well, there's a lot of people. It's interesting. I'm getting I've been a big advocate for free conversation and ideas being shared, and even if the ideas are sort of contrary to the public health trends, but I'm actually getting frustrated with the excesses. Like people are going just too far. It's too shrill, too extreme. And that to me is a sign, like Susan's saying, that the PR is off. They're not controlling their messaging properly.
Yeah.
And it's just even somebody like me who's just open to discourse is frustrated and sort of like had it.
And also, like, I think maybe we should, as PR people in the world, I think we should stop talking about our political beliefs and just do PR.
Well, so what about that? So politics is sort of, as we've already talked about the diversity stuff and the judging and the police, the mind police, the moral police that are out there. What do we do with this political overlay on things when people are just trying to get things done, just trying to do a good job, just trying to help other people, just trying to bring a product to market that people might like, or give information that could be helpful? Yep. What do we do with all that?
I mean, I tell clients, avoid it at all costs. Avoid it. Do not mention it. I had one client during Black Lives Matter wanted to put out a statement about his beliefs. And I said, you're a white man from Boca Raton. What do you have to say? Yeah. You have no voice in this.
Right.
Be quiet. Put your head down. It has nothing to do with what you're doing.
I think that's actually great advice, because it's not that person's point of view or ideas we need to hear from. And yet everyone feels necessary not just to grandstand their ideas, but also judge other people that don't have exactly coincident feelings.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, when they did,
that's what I.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Go. Well, that's what I really, the woke thing really bothers me, because a lot of the ideals I agree with. Mm-hmm. I think everybody should be who they are and live their best life. What I don't agree with is this moral judgment that we're putting on people who don't agree with us. It's not that we disagree. It's now you're a bad person. You're racist. You're homophobic. I have a friend who doesn't understand transsexuals. And I was trying to tell her, that there are people too, and this is absolutely right. And she said, it's not that I'm against it. I don't understand it. And her heart is good. I've known this woman for years. But by today's measurement, she's homophobic.
Right. And
we have to stop that.
That is unfortunate, because then you don't get a chance to bring her along, right? Then she gets defensive. And I would argue that this is what's going on. It's interesting you sort of frame it this way, because I've been very critical of the way our public health officials have been dealing with COVID, because their primary position is you're doing something wrong. You need to get it together. And I, as someone who've worked for 30 years with people who need to stop doing bad things and hurting themselves and taking drugs and whatever it might be, that's the exact opposite of something that works for people that need to change their behavior. It's just anathema. And I don't understand why we think that somehow by being judging, and it's why things are hardening up and getting wider. It's because people are feeling defensive. So somebody just reminded me that I was talking about, I guess it was vaccine hesitancy or something, and I was talking about the cognitive dissonance that is out there right now. Every time you hear somebody start to attack a person or an organization rather than an argument or a circumstance, that's cognitive dissonance. You're just no longer in the argument. You're not in the conversation. You're just saying, "Oh, you're a bad person." Well, that's
absolutely.
your cognitive dissonance.
I had a conversation with someone who I really respect, and Harry and Meghan came up, and I had said, well, I don't like those two, and I don't agree. Like, I don't believe a lot of what they said, and the argument got heated, and this person was saying, well, Meghan is a mixed race. I'm like, and? Well, that's just racist. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not believing what she said, that I'm racist now? Oh, no, that's your privilege talking.
Oh.
Okay, well, Chloe.
And then,
yes, okay, now let's have a conversation, Chloe.
Yeah, and then it was Meghan's cry for help. She contemplated this or that, her mental health. And it became, I'm against mental health. Because I didn't and I was like, this is insane. Like, can we agree that I didn't believe them and you did, and we're both good people? Like, we're both fine. Like, we're allowed to have beliefs. But all of a sudden, I was privileged, I was racist, I was against mental health.
Wow.
And I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
It's true, and you should be an elderly woman like me, and everything I say is
elderly
wrong.
White woman. How dare you?
Yes.
And I'm actually willing to acknowledge my privilege and to acknowledge the patriarchy, and I think white supremacy exists, and I think our language is kind of screwed up around all this stuff. It's designed to push people away and be inflammatory, but that's other matters. I know what people are talking about. I get what they're talking about. I'm sympathetic to all this stuff. And yet, we have to be able to have conversations without going to these ad hominem places.
Absolutely. So, people are, just because you disagree with someone does not make you a bad person. It means you disagree.
Right. Or that you don't like the other person. It's just you have. And by the way, when I disagree with something, I look forward to you changing, modifying, updating my priors. I want to expand my point of view. And so let's talk about Harry and Meghan for a second. So do you, I would imagine part of the reason you have a little bit of, I wouldn't call it disdain, but sort of, you said it, you don't believe them, is that do you smell spin all around them? Do you smell PR action, and then that's what's got your spidey senses up?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole thing is just a kind of a ploy. I mean, it's revealed that he was secretly writing a book, and they're selling this and they're selling that. And in that interview, it was like there's a lot of it that was proven not to be true, like facts. And that's when, like, at first I was like, okay. And then as I started reading, well, no, that was wrong. That was wrong. That was wrong. And I just said, you know what? I don't believe them. But you know what? If you want to believe them, that does not make you stupid. It's just, this is my belief.
But again, your belief is as somebody with a PR professional with an eye for that stuff, you're sort of seeing the manipulations, and so it makes you naturally skeptical of what they're saying. I have a kind of a different kind of take on them, which is I think that he has over idealized her, and it's natural in somebody that lost a mom like that in traumatic circumstances, and particularly a mom with an eating disorder is going to definitely affect his relationships with women. And he might over idealize and then gratify her every whim, so to speak. I'm not saying make her happy. I'm saying whatever it is are her priorities, he'll make them his without question. And I said, it's called enmeshment, it's called. And I kind of see that there. That's what my eye sees. And therefore, I don't trust him. Then I don't trust everything he's saying. It's just he's there just being enmeshed with her. And I don't really know what he's thinking. And all of a sudden, magically, he's this huge altruist out of nowhere. Right. What's that all about? But okay, good for them. I mean, they're certainly not doing anything bad, right?
Well, I've grown to love them because I have a client who wrote a book about the royal family. And anytime Harry and Meghan open their mouths, I get a new media cycle. So I love it. Because really the editors want to talk to my client about what he thinks. So I'm always like, keep talking. Just keep talking. I love you too. Just keep saying stupid things. I get new media cycles. Yes.
The life of a publicist.
Do you have
exactly?
Do you have any sort of primers on what people should watch out for when they get out of the media?
Get out or in?
Get out into it, so to speak. I mean, do you have? I mean, do you sit your clients down and go, here's some basic what I worry about?
Yeah, I mean, you really talk like you study the client, you talk with them, and you just figure out their communication skills. And some clients, if you know they're going to exaggerate or they're going to lie or something, you just don't give them to the media. Some clients who can't put a sentence together, you don't give them to the media. So it's really, you judge every client on what they can do and how they can help themselves. And, if someone is not good on camera, don't put them on camera.
Right.
You can teach someone enough, but if someone's not comfortable on live TV, then just don't do it. But they're not going to get comfortable.
My bet is you're faced with people who still want to go on TV. You know what I mean? And you try to coach them up and give them the media training, and it's okay. I told you.
Yep, exactly.
Isn't that funny? I know.
You had to learn.
Of course,
you were great on radio. He has an amazing voice, and then when Adam and Drew started, they looked good on TV together. Like that's what got them going. It wasn't. You can have a great radio voice. A lot of people in radio have tried to be on television, but you have to look good too. But having the duo was
let's put out.
But it took time for you to learn how to do.
Yeah,
television.
Let's put on an intro. We'll pull back our curtain for a second. And I didn't have any great desire to be on television, and I certainly did not want to pay attention to a camera. I thought that was sort of that seemed seemed disdainful to me. And then, and Susan, of course, has an extremely acute eye and does not hold back on anything she sees, and was always on me like, you got this, you got to do that, you got to do this. I'm like, okay, maybe, okay.
I worked in fashion.
So I started following her directions, and then one day she goes, we were at the Hard Rock Cafe in 1997, and they were playing Lifeline on these giant screens, and she goes, you need to sit down and watch this. Just watch, and you tell me if you don't see some room for improvement here. Things you should be doing.
We were at a craps table.
And I was like, oh my God, is she right? I was like, holy shit, I got to start listening to her much more carefully. And that was it. I started listening to her from that point on, and really carefully, and it made a difference.
How cool is it, though, to be playing craps and look up and see yourself on a big screen?
I didn't like
that. Everybody thinks they're good on camera until they see themselves on camera.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the things I do is media training where, you bring them to a studio and you do fake interviews and you have them on camera and they realize how bad they are. Because there is definitely a whole skill to it. It's not just answering questions, it's eye contact, it's posture, it's breathing, it's the speed of your voice. There's so many people who do it, I'm in awe of. You see the talk show hosts and the talking heads. I'm in awe because I'm not really good at it. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard. It's not easy. And not a lot of people are good at it.
It is hard. And Drew went through all that media training too for years. Remember when you worked for New World, I think, or New.
Well, I just remember
they go, okay, we're going to take you in for some media training.
The very first media training was with Adam, and he was so objectionable and just was like, because they kept trying to do the media training, like, well, Adam, what do you think about these questions or whatever? He goes, what do I think about this? I think this whole thing is bullshit. Why are we here? Why are we? It was just, and then I would try to soften and go, oh, well, we're glad to be here. We're happy to be in front. I was so busy trying. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was or what I was doing, just trying to get by. Oh my God. And yeah.
It was like working upstream with him.
Well, the camera is an X-ray, and that's such a cliche, but it really is. If you're feeling it, if it's on your mind, the camera is going to go right through you, and that's why it's so important to train people and to get them ready, because the camera doesn't lie.
Right. Yeah, and there's
it also crops off your head.
What do you mean? Like, that was something you've done right now?
No, yeah, Jeremy's head's cropped.
Oh,
I've been trying to mess with it the whole time just so it like looks better, but I think it looks okay. It's fine.
All right.
Sorry, at least the sound is good. Yesterday we had a great interview with Fred Stoller, but his sound was so bad. It was so sad. I know. It happens with Zoom and it was a deep topic. We couldn't interrupt.
Yeah, well, digital.
But people are learning themselves by doing Zoom meetings and deciding whether they're going to do their hair and makeup or
That's
whatever.
true. People are getting used to how they look on Zoom meetings. That's kind of interesting.
We did an interview with Bethany Frankel yesterday or the day before, and on her podcast, and it was all video. But damn, she did not put an ounce of energy into how she looked. I was like,
that was not that, but that was not a visual thing.
It wasn't, but I was like, wow, I can't do that. I have to have a little hair and makeup before I get on it. I'm just super vain that way, but that's why you never see me on the camera.
Well, which is what I've really understood, is that whatever critical eye is, or critical input and eye is directed my way, she does to herself just as bad, if not worse. So
I just avoid the camera. That's just the way it is.
Let's see. I'm going to go to Clubhouse to see if there are any questions. Are we on? Yeah.
Oh, shoot. You didn't tell me I had the sound off.
That may be why they're sort of dropping off so quickly.
You didn't tell me you were on.
Yeah.
I turned the sound off because the phone buzzes if you don't.
So we apologize, Clubhouse, that you haven't been able to hear this. We did not know that technically that was going on, but let's see if Gabriel has any questions.
There's some good tech work right there.
Gabriel, a question.
Yeah, question. As a 30-year-old man who's healthy, goes to the gym, eats well, should I take the vaccine? Is it recommended?
Well, it's recommended, of course. The question is you need to sit with your physician and make that decision. I'm stunned that these days anybody has anything to say about anything that goes on between a doctor and a patient. That is none of their goddamn business. So you and your physician should be making that decision. Obviously, if you're a healthy, thin, otherwise, young male, your risk of serious illness is very, very low. But the piece you've got to keep in mind is that our objective now is twofold. One is to prevent viral replication so more variants don't show up, right? Some variant could get hold in one of us that is particularly pernicious and can get around the vaccine and or natural immunity. That would not be good. And you could easily argue to yourself, well, worldwide, there's a lot more replication going on than in my little town, so I'm probably not going to get it. But think that through very carefully. And the other thing is there's a, I don't want to say a secret agenda, but there's an agenda in the background that they're trying to move forward, which is that the expectation, whenever you hear people say that COVID's going to be endemic, they're essentially saying that everyone's going to get it. Not everyone, of course, like everyone doesn't get the flu every year when we have the flu around, but that the expectation is a lot of people are going to get it. And so if you're going to get mild illness, that is going to be more probable if you've been vaccinated. And hopefully we'll have antivirals very, very soon, so everybody can have a very truncated course with this. But those are the two things to kind of keep in mind as you make this decision, okay? And there he goes. That's Gabriel.
We want questions for Jeremy, though, if you're out there. Sorry, they didn't hear the conversation. They don't even know what we're talking about.
Right, we've been talking to Jeremy about the state of PR.
That was my fault.
Really working with the so-called Chloes of the world, which are essentially the entitled young people who are, arrive and 2 weeks later would like the corner office and a raise and all the authority. That I feel bad for them that it makes them. We were in a panic to get going and just get going, right? At least in my peer age. and there was no, they've lost the satisfaction that comes with building and growing and moving through and learning everything as you go, and the wisdom that comes with time and experience.
Oh, they don't care though. And honestly, they're going to get the corner office and then they're going to lay everybody off.
Right. Yeah, it'll just be them.
Once McKinsey and Company comes in, yeah, so they don't care. So I don't feel bad for them.
It's so funny.
The bane of my existence, I do not feel bad for them.
Because they've traumatized you too much. Are you, since you've written the book, do you have any of them in your office, or have they all quit? Or are you able to get along with them now?
Yeah, I mean, I work with a couple of them that aren't as bad. So, but Chloe will say she read it and it changed her life, but she won't even open it. So,
that is so funny.
It's hard to, read the truth. It is a little, it's supposed to be funny and sort of a lampoon. So it's supposed to be funny. It's more funny to older people than it is probably to the.
Well, no, I just,
Exactly.
yes, I think you're right. However, I think, like I was saying, like when I came out of Book of Mormon, and the Mormon folks I talked to were so like, oh man, lampoon was right. You got us. I would wish that they would have a good sense of humor about themselves, but it sort of also feels like humor is something that's been abandoned or lost, or is, I don't know what it is. They have no sense of humor about stuff.
No, not at all. I mean, it's also like
That was also 11 years ago, Drew.
we're living on social.
True. Whoop.
It's all about social media now, and people judge their worth by their likes and how many followers they have and their
Right.
engagement. And this generation is used to living their life on camera.
Yeah.
And it's just they can't unplug, and they don't see reality, and so it is hard. They really don't have a sense of humor, and they a lot of humor comes in sitting back and looking at the absurdity of something.
Right.
And I think we're losing that.
I'm watching the restream chat here, and someone wants to know if you watch TMZ regularly. I don't know why they're asking that question, but I'll ask it.
No, I don't.
I do.
Susan does.
I don't know.
We're friends with them.
I know, but if you did, is there anything you'd be expecting to get from it?
No, I mean this is like infotainment, and it's I really have no interest in it. It doesn't pertain to my life. I have clients that are work in different spaces. I know there's an audience for that, and it's a great guilty pleasure. I have friends who it's just mind candy. For me, it's not what I like, but obviously it's a huge platform.
Do you remember what I told you to do when we first started getting aggressed by TMZ?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
No.
You don't remember?
No.
So when Drew was first starting to realize that the cameras were turning on him when he had to walk out of a restaurant, I said, just go with it. I go, these are our friends. We need to make friends with them. We need to make them, be a part of our life or whatever. Because if you run, they're gonna say shit about you. So and then you became friends with, Harvey. You knew Harvey Levin from before. We had met before because you were on his show before that.
But you're right. I made fun with and actually what I did was I realized those guys that come out with the cameras have a really, really tough job. And I want to help them. And they're trying to think of clever questions and things that will, be interesting. And they don't know who they're going to be asked. It's not like they can preload their questions. They just ran into a person. They got to get it and make it interesting. And they have just a minute. So I try to help them.
So they have a relationship with Drew now. And anytime they need help, they they go to him. But I just knew that if we made friends with them, that they wouldn't, they've held a lot of stuff back for us over the years too. So because of it.
Here's somebody that says, I don't remember them holding anything back. I don't know what you're talking about, but
no, we did. Like they knew stories and
like what?
I don't know. Just they didn't report on stuff that was going on. Well, you talked about your prostate cancer, remember? And they held off on that.
Right.
And then I don't know. There was just a few things over the years where we're like, oh God.
All right, in the middle of entitlement and boomers, and unfortunately they get. Well, this is not a full sentence here.
We're muted on Clubhouse.
We're muted.
Somebody said we're muted on Clubhouse.
Well, maybe that was from before.
We were muted.
Let's see.
Unmuted us.
In the middle of entitlement and boomers, and unfortunately, this must be saying that someone's in the middle of that. They get the office and they bypass Gen X, and the millennials cause, case you guys don't realize, I don't know quite what that said. Millennials are in their 30s and 40s now, and the entitled ones you're talking about are in their 20s. Well, to be fair, Jeremy opened up by calling them Gen Z. I'm the one that sort of bled into the millennial conversation. What do you consider them to be, Jeremy?
Like I said, the goalpost shifts all the time. I've seen so many different definitions of what a millennial is, what a Gen Z is. I'm a Gen X. I'm 46. So just doing math, I think millennials are. I don't know, honestly. Like I assume it's Gen Z because of the age, but millennials have really. This is kind of stuck to millennials. It's kind of like a tag that they have.
It's their brand.
Yeah,
it's their brand. Because I think people are hoping Gen Zs are different. That's what I think they're hoping for, and so they may not be. They may be worse. Who knows? So Clubhouse, again, we screwed you guys up. I'm sorry we were muted there. This is not our day for Clubhouse. Let me just.
I know.
Let's keep going. Katie, what's going on there?
We're unmuted now.
Yeah. Hi, Katie.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm going to have word vomit because I have been such a fan since I was like in elementary school. I would listen to Lifeline with my little headset on at night.
Oh my goodness. In elementary school, you're making me uncomfortable.
But so many questions, but I guess my first off, I know like everyone's obviously talking about COVID, but if someone's vaccinated and obviously is around another individual that's not vaccinated, does that mean the vaccinated person is at risk because they're around unvaccinated people?
That's I think, I'm seeing those. I get exactly what you're asking. So you have an unvaccinated person and a vaccinated person, and there's the question is who's at greater risk, right? Because the unvaccinated person is at risk of more serious illness. An unvaccinated person can transmit the illness. So I would say the concern really is for severe illness. So the unvaccinated person still is the one we need to be more concerned about. Now, whether or not the unvaccinated person can produce more virus, probably, possibly, and certainly an unvaccinated person can cause a breakthrough in a vaccinated person. But a vaccinated person with COVID could also cause a breakthrough in a vaccinated person, right? It's not strictly the unvaccinated that transmit, if that makes sense. Kind of. I didn't explain that very well. Just that I worry about severe illness. That's really what I worry about right now. So I worry about the unvaccinated people. For sure, vaccinated people can still get illness. They can get it from unvaccinated or vaccinated. Can they get it more from an unvaccinated? Maybe.
We don't know.
Yeah, don't know yet.
Right. But you can get it again. You
yes,
just won't
can.
get
There's
it
a lot
as
of breakthrough.
bad.
Well, hopefully not. A lot of breakthrough going around these days. I just talked to somebody this morning who had a breakthrough.
It's so confusing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Any words from your perspective and expertise of is there any estimated guess of how long we're going to have to live in this kind of world?
I think we should be slowly morphing out of it. I noticed, I think it was Dr. Fauci or somebody over the CDC was saying that they expect things to really wind down now. The thing I'm looking towards are the antiviral therapies. There are three. The way we have antibiotics, right, to kill bacteria, we are on the eve of having 3 different antivirals for COVID that look to me to be very, very effective. And once we get those to market, everything changes because then nobody has to get severe illness. Even somebody with a breakthrough can just immediately take an antiviral and just suppress it. So things are going to change soon. I just don't know when. Hopefully October, November. Okay?
Okay, and am I allowed to ask one more question?
Should we allow Katie? Yes, you're allowed. You feel.
I mean, obviously, I could talk forever with you, but is there obviously? I know you have an expertise in addiction and watch Celebrity Rehab, all those kinds of things. Is there any connection that you've seen with people? And I'm speaking, I guess, just from psychoanalyzing myself. People who had overeating food issues and connections to abusing alcohol.
Yes. I mean, that's a very complicated question, right? There's not a simple answer to that. There's a couple of things, right? The big swaths of this topic would be somebody that has trauma is always looking for strategies to regulate emotions. And often because when you've been traumatized, you don't develop the internal strategies for regulation. You have to look outside of your body for means of regulation. That can be alcohol, food, sex, gambling, all those sorts of things, right? So they're related through trauma. They're also related through addiction, in that sometimes when people try not to drink or stop using alcohol, they'll switch to something else. That something else can be food. Got it? You okay? Are you okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, like I said, thank you so much for letting me speak and ask questions. And like I said, real big fan of all the work that you've done.
Thanks, Katie. Come back around. We do 2 or 3 days a week. We throw up on Clubhouse, and I stream out on other.
Hopefully, you'll be able to hear us.
Yeah, hopefully I'll do a better job with the technical aspects of Clubhouse. But we're around, and I'll usually put up a little announcement when we're coming to Clubhouse. Okay.
Okay, awesome. And also too, I even loved when y'all sat down with Tyler the Medium. I just love all the things that y'all did.
Well, funny. There's a funny story attached to that. Susan, do you want to talk about that?
What's
well,
so
that was
funny
your
about
that
it?
was Susan. Susan, that's Susan's thing in her world.
I had a psychic medium show for years.
She was the one that really pushed for it. And the thing you didn't see on TV so much that I thought was so funny is because Susan knows lots of these people. I sort of study them.
I have a lot of friends that
I think they're fascinating, and I just trying to figure out what's really going on. And Tyler came up with some amazing stuff, and I ended up, I don't know if you saw, I ended up putting him on EEG monitors and things, and there's something weird going on there.
Yeah, you did that other one.
And the neuroscientist I work with agreed there was something extraordinary going on in his brain. We got to figure out what that is.
He goes into a sleep.
He goes into a hyper awake sleep when he's reading people, which is, we don't know what that is.
Nice guy. Never had him on my show because I don't know.
Anyway, the funny part was the whole time the producers go, "Do you really think he's talking to dead people?" And Susan goes, "Oh, I go, look, I know one thing. He's not talking to dead people." And Susan's like, "He's talking to dead people." I'm like, "Okay." It's like so
I've talked to a lot of dead people.
It was funny
over the years, so I know. And you know what? Halloween's coming up, so I may talk to some more in October. Come watch Calling Out with Susan Pinsky.
Susan will be back.
Do a little PR for my show. Yeah. I haven't done it in a while. Everybody wants it now that I stopped, but maybe we'll do something. I don't like getting in front of the camera, but I'll do it for around Halloween.
All right, Katie, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
People are complaining on our stream that they're tired of talking about COVID, but it's just the topic that's on everybody's mind.
We brought Jeremy. One of the reasons we got Jeremy in here, we thought it was a really interesting book. We liked the construct of Chloe. Susan was reading the what do you call those? Chloeisms or what do we call those? Chloe response techniques?
Yeah, basically Chloeisms.
Yeah. She's been reading them to me for 2 days, and so we thought this is a nice way to talk about something interesting and different. And to me, the reason I was interested, and by the way, I'm not just talking about COVID.
We don't say yes to all the people. All the
everybody wants to talk about COVID. It's on people's mind. I understand that, but we're trying to bring in other topics to at least soothe our souls, if nothing else.
Being in the workplace is already hard enough, and then dealing with, I don't know, this kind of.
But I'll tell you what
ineffective ability, it just doesn't. I don't know.
Here's what I hope you can maybe.
I mean, I have 3 millennials living with me, so
right, our children, and not just 3 random little Chloes, but. What I was hoping we'd talk about, and I'm going to try to discuss this with you, and I don't know if you have anything to say, and it's maybe unfair to sort of try to nail you down with this, but let me just, you're a PR professional, I'm just curious. And this is it's not going to be a well thought out frame I'm going to give you, so I'm even handicapping things more. We live in this very strange, hyper politicized world. You've already said people should avoid politics, but I feel like it's invading everything, and you can't avoid it. It gets in no matter what. Either it's just the platforms you're on, or you inadvertently, as you said, you say something that inadvertently isn't up to the woke standards of the moment, or it's just always at very least it's an omnipresent liability that frankly, most people I would think would want to do better with, but they just don't know enough to do it, or they don't know the parameters, or they're a privileged white guy and they don't quite get it, and happy to acknowledge their privilege, but still not okay. How do you think about managing that tightrope walk that really everyone has to do if they're out in the public today? If they're out in a big way, people have their knives sharp and they're just looking for ways to come at people, and it's unpleasant, it's unnecessary, it's unfortunate, but it's the sort of status quo. Is there a strategy? Is there a psychology? Is there anything people should be doing to manage that as they go out in the world?
It's sad. I wish I didn't have to say this, but you stay apolitical and you put your head in the sand, because whatever you say, half of the country is not going to agree with it. And now you've pissed off half the country. And, you have people, like you said, waiting with a knife to judge you, to cancel you, to make moral judgments about you just because you feel a different way, or if you like a certain. I have friends who supported Donald Trump, and you know what? I disagree with them, but they're still my friends.
Yeah.
And
which, by the way,
bad people.
Because of this, it strangely, I'd be curious if you, again, as a PR agent, the Trump polarization. It feels like so much of everything, because we were just in France. There was just none of this political energy, just none of it. And I don't remember it being that much present before Trump. And so it's like, it's all this strange reaction to this one dude. Right. What I mean? It's just, and it's suddenly, and it's imbued everything with energy of that you may or may not want to be around.
Right.
And for someone like me, I'm hear what you're saying to your clients, which is avoid it, which is great advice.
I totally agree with everything he said.
I do too, except when I'm out here talking all the time, inevitably I stand on a landmine. Or even if I don't step on a landmine, somebody will make something I said into a landmine, even though it wasn't what I said or have anything to do with what I said. They'll turn it into something. And I kind of feel like, and that feels like this is something new. This is something weird in the world. And I feel like if you just put your head in the sand and duck, you got to kind of go out at it and try to correct it at least. I don't know, because ducking doesn't work very well in my world.
Well, I always say to clients, I say, what's the upside? So if we get a request for an interview, I say, can this help us or hurt us? If it can't help us, it's not worth doing, because it can only hurt you.
Right.
And, people take quotes, they misquote you, they troll you online, they make up stuff. So if it can't help you, don't do it.
Like print.
Yeah, print, if you have skeletons, certainly don't do print, but it can only hurt you. So you control the environment as much as you can. Live TV is great because there's a record of it. It's right there.
Oh my God, I love this guy, Drew.
Yeah. No, I know.
He
agree.
thinks just like me.
No, we agree. Carol says, talking about what I said about the French, it's because they're liberal and relaxed. No, Carol, that's not what I mean about the French. The French the 18 to 28-year-old French people are in active rebellion right now. We had to watch thousands of police officers fighting tens of thousands of young French people who were out on the streets every night, certainly every Saturday and Friday and Saturday night.
No, it's Saturday.
And they were out there demanding their liberty against mandates, demanding it. They were freaking out. They were absolutely, I would talk to them, and my French got pretty good, so I started chatting to them, and they would all just, vive la liberté, they can't do this to us. The 28-year-olds and above were sort of apologetic. They were like, we have to do this thing, but we'll give you choices. You can get a test, or you can get a vaccine, or you can show us your antibodies from your natural immunity. But we got to do this. We want to stay safe. And by the way, it's coming out of Brussels really anyway. It's not coming out of France, but we'll just comply. But it's none of it. There's no signaling. There's no tribalism. There's no virtue signaling. There's none of that. None of that. And it's not because they're relaxed, because believe me, the young people are not relaxed about this. They are exorcised. So it's just that we here are under the influence of a divisiveness, a separation that we don't seem to be able to get back from, which I find kind of weird and extraordinary. What's that?
Well, the French protest everything, right? Like they're always protesting.
They do, and the Europeans do too. But they're usually sort of on the anarchy side.
But it's not like a 50-50.
This is 1790, 3.0. This is them.
Right.
This is fraternity, liberté, égalité, and they are pushing on the liberté part, and it's it's interesting. The young people here are wanting more restriction,
right?
More mask, more vaccine, more. They are the exact opposite in France. It's just very interesting. It's just very interesting to me.
Just the old people want to get out.
And the other thing is the people in France want to live. They want to go out and they want to be with other people.
And they want to go back to work too. And they're so happy to be back at work.
They're excited about being around.
What did that waiter say to us? He said I said French people seem a lot nicer right now. And they goes, yeah, we're not usually very nice, but it's like after COVID they're so happy to be at work.
Yeah, and out and around. Yeah,
they're being nice to us.
Well, listen, you've very kindly spent time with me, Jeremy.
I know.
The book is
Sorry, we screwed up the phone calls.
F off Chloe. F off Chloe.
No
It looks like a lot of fun. I love that.
F off Clubhouse.
I love that Susan characterized it as a lampoon. I think that's a great way of describing it.
Absolutely.
It is.
I'm looking at one last thing.
I wish we had time to read it before.
What PR people say and what they really mean. It's a list worth looking at it. I'm
gonna read that too.
We're going in a different.
I'm sorry I didn't read. I feel bad, but we didn't. But I'm going to. So
he's spending more time with his family means administrative leave while we investigate hotel expenses for his mistress. Inclusion is part of our DNA, and what really means we have a video with a token, et cetera, American vendors to prove it. So, how people get them. She was dehydrated. Yeah, drug overdose. Absolutely, 100%.
Oh, you have that in there?
Here's 100% that one. I've said this for 15 years. 28-year-olds don't get dehydrated. They play in the NFL in 90-degree heat and they don't get dehydrated. There's no category that would allow you to be hospitalized for exhaustion. That is you literally would lose your license as a hospital if the admitting diagnosis was exhaustion. So there you go. So he'll give you a little PR sort of. What do you call this? A translation book. And I'm imagining you can get it wherever books are sold, Amazon, etc.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Absolutely.
Pre-sale.
Oh, it's pre-sale now. It's still pre-sale. Yeah. Okay, when does it come out?
Well, it's right now March, but it's probably going to be moved up. So we're very excited.
Oh, well, good. Yeah, it sounds really good.
All right, my friend. Well, thank you for spending a little time with us, and good luck with everything. Thank you. And take care.
Absolutely.
Right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Oh, I still have Clubhouse here with some hands raised, and I thought if we're gonna do COVID stuff there, wow, you put Jeremy into a strange outer space.
Look at it. He got lost into a look at that. Look at that sign. It looks cool. Fuck off, Chloe.
Kristen, I'll bring some people up. Again, if you are asking a question at the podium, you're also streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and hi, Kristen, or Kirsten.
What time is your haircut?
4:00.
Oh,
Kirsten.
That's okay. It doesn't just a good old and I'll answer. Hello. Thanks for inviting me up. I had a question for you about the monoclonal antibodies.
Yes.
COVID. So these are cloned antibodies. Is that kind of weird?
No, clone. It just means identical. It just means identical antibodies. A single family of identical structures.
Okay, so they're not cloned. They're just like, how do they produce them then? Are they lab produced or?
I don't know the production process, but a clone just means an identical copy. So this is one clone. Antibodies, there's lots of antibodies, right? When you have an infection, you get polyclonal antibodies, multiple different kinds of antibodies. But if you're receiving this particular therapeutic agent, it's a single clone, meaning family or reproduction, identical reproduction of a specific antibody for the spike protein, typically.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
My next.
Yep.
Can I ask one?
Yeah.
What did you think about the Israeli study about immunity? Because I feel like immunity is sort of like not being discussed too much.
It is. I don't have a strong opinion. I don't know. I see so much stuff swirling around. I don't even know what to read yet, what studies to rely on. All I know is that was where the first breakthroughs were being documented from Delta, and guess what? There are lots of breakthroughs. What I understand, I follow Monica Gandhi. Monica Gandhi is sort of my go-to for information, or to guide me on what to read at least. And what she said was, look, there's lots of breakthroughs, but it's still 96% effective against hospitalization. Okay?
Fabulous. Thank you.
Okay, you bet. Let's see. You guys, I got to kind of wrap things up at this point. I appreciate your calls over at Clubhouse.
Why? You don't have to be haircut till 4. I feel like we should take a couple more.
Okay.
I don't know. It's up to you, though.
Okay.
If you're tired or whatever.
Escari.
Hi, Dr. Drew. I watched your show back in like the late 90s, and it's really cool meeting you here.
You bet. Thank you.
Just want to say, how do you deal with crazy anti-vax people? And I'm saying that for the radio.
Yeah, I'm getting upset with people on extremes generally. Here's what I want people to know is that if you have categorical certainty about anything, you are almost certainly wrong. That biology, this is sort of why I'm, through years and years of practicing clinical medicine, you learn that everything is a provisional certainty, right? It's like, yeah, I think I'm making the right, based on currently available, you have to always update your priors. You have to always update the information with currently available data and wisdom. And so I'm not certain of anything, except it looks to me, see, one of the things that would scare me is if I were overly enthusiastic about vaccines and we turned out that the myocarditis incidence is higher than we thought, I would feel terrible about that. But I'm willing to say now that the predominance of evidence suggests that vaccines are a good idea. I've said that from the beginning. You should get vaccinated. Should you get vaccinated if you're 14? It's a different kind of question. Should you get vaccinated if you're 65? Absolutely, no question about it. So it's
exactly.
It's like you need to make these decisions with your doctor.
And I feel like that lack of nuance is it's why people.
You're right. You're right. You're absolutely.
No one wants to be like, well, in certain instances, yes, right. Some people may have a bad reaction to a vaccine. Right. But if we look at if you end up in the hospital, guess what? They're going to put other drugs in you, and you're going to be knocked out. And
the way I said it from the beginning, and people didn't really like it, was, hey, look, we as physicians do bad shit to people to prevent worse shit all the time. That's what we do. And in this case, it looks to me like it's a pretty clear decision on behalf of taking that vaccine. Now, should you get a booster? I thought for sure people over 75 should get a booster. It's been approved for over 65. That makes sense to me. I'm encouraging my patients to do that. I think they'll have the same thing soon for Moderna. They're going to have something like that for Johnson & Johnson. I may take an update on my Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I'm not sure yet, even though I had a terrible reaction to it. But
did you get multiple vaccines, or you just got the J&J?
I just got the J&J. I had COVID, and I got the J&J. I apologize for the feedback. My engineer has left here, and she left her headphones on loud, and so you may be hearing my voice back out in the distance.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, Dr.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. But by the way, I'm upset with extremes on all sides in everything these days. Everyone's driving me a little crazy.
There have been people who have been too strident, and they haven't listened to people who have had concerns.
Yes, that's right.
But then there's also people where it's like, okay, well, we've had these vaccines out for 9 months now. We've had hundreds of millions of people get doses.
Yep.
We would probably know. And
you'd probably know.
There's a catch that, maybe with science, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, we'll find out about a side effect.
And then people are also getting a little conspiratorial and going, oh, there's information being suppressed, and the VAERS is an underestimate and stuff like that. I don't think so. I'm going to bet against that, just as a betting guy.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Bye. Let's see. We got a bunch of hands up here. Okay, hold on a second. Yori, what's up?
Hi, Dr. Drew.
Hey there.
Can you hear me?
I do. Do you hear me?
Gosh, I can hear myself. Yeah, I hear you. And I don't know if this is you're the right doctor to ask for this, but what do you think of the I think it's like the different terminology and so forth of putting people in categories. Like, how I'm just wondering, what do you think that's going to do to us psychologically if you're, the anti-vax, the crazy anti-vax people, and the, I guess the crazy pro-vax people, all that type of rhetoric and terminology.
I think I am very concerned about tribalism generally. I've been concerned about it for a while. I'm more concerned all the time. It's not people at their best. And I saw something a couple of days ago where someone expressed a psychopath as being somebody who treats their in-group the way other humans treat an out-group. Now, I want to unpack that statement. So what he's saying is that a psychopathic person who feels no emotion and has no empathy will treat in-group and out-group the same way with no concern and no empathy. But embedded in that statement is that normal people can treat people who are in an out-group horribly, horribly. We're wired up that way as human beings, and we have to fight against that in all settings. In everything, whether it's about vaccines or it's about race or it's about inclusion or about who's woke or who's not woke, whatever it is, we must be vigilant to try to reduce the notion of outgroup. It's one of the things that worried me about vaccine passports. It creates an outgroup. And whenever you create an outgroup, you have a group that can be mistreated by an in-group. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I myself, I'm personally really afraid of all of that because, I feel like I'm neutral.
Me too.
To a certain extent.
Yeah,
and
me
I
too.
have people on both sides in and out of my circle of friends and family. And I see this thing, and it just reminds me of something that I learned in mental health. Like if there's a person who has any type of what is this thing that it's really popular and people say, oh, that person is
narcissist. Narcissism.
Well, not it's a depression.
Hey, so hang on one second, Susan. We're hearing all that back. It's massive feedback. Your headphones
is it me?
Your headphones are feeding back into the microphone, and that's all we can hear now.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So there we go.
Okay.
So not you. It's my engineer. So finish up. Now I can hear you again. Go ahead.
Okay. You know how people will say a person, instead of saying a person has a state of being, they'll say that person is that.
Yes.
And that is so scary to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we teach each other that we are people? Like you said, we're all people. So we're in an in-group.
Yes.
Right? As human beings. But when we start calling each other, those pro-vaxxers or those the anti-vaxxers, now we're like taking each other out of a human state, which means that it may be okay to mistreat them. And that scares me.
Slow clap for Yori. I had this thing I call the rational revolution. And at the core of the rational revolution is exactly what you're talking about. And it's funny to me, it's interesting to me as somebody who sits in the middle and sees both sides. I think we may be having more distress than anybody because the excesses on both sides really, they're awful when you can see them. It really is not good in either direction. And so I am so with you. That it is, I'm so used to talking about this topic when it comes to addicts and alcoholics too, because families and people around addicts think that's a bad person. No, that person is who they are, and they have a bad illness. That part of the symptom of that bad illness is some behaviors that are not very pleasant. That's not the person, that's the illness. So to your point, you're not the disease. You are a person with a condition that shouldn't diminish the personhood at all. So I think you're speaking God's language, or keep talking, okay?
Okay, yeah. I hope it doesn't become a new ism in our lexicon.
I think we're all getting a little tired of this. I hope, and so I'm hoping that attitudes like yours start to really not just seep in but take over. Good for you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thanks, Yori. You bet. Yeah. All right, Susan, now that we've had 15 minutes of feedback here.
Well, you couldn't get up and just go over and turn my phone off?
I didn't know where it was coming from or what it was. And
I had to go feed the dogs and let the dog out. And I'm sorry, I guess my earbud went out of reach in it. So next time, just come over and turn my mic off. It's number one.
Walk off the camera. Okay.
I mean, it's better than listening to whatever.
If I knew what it was, I guess I could have done it. But,
I know.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here.
I try to train you. I'm so sorry.
Thank
everybody.
You for the Clubhouse folks. I'm going to end the Clubhouse room. We appreciate you spending time with us.
Comedy of errors.
Thank you. It's been that kind of day, especially if it pertains to Clubhouse and sound. So
I'm sorry, everybody. We'll do better next time, I promise.
I'm looking at the last few minutes of the restream before I Adam, but he's clearly angry at his mom and very persuasive, but not well informed. I don't know what you're saying there quite. Concerns me their brothers. Adam Kroll is quite extreme. Miss Kaylee about Adam. Adam can be intense in his positions, that's for sure. If there were fertility catches, how long would it take? And reversible? We would know. We would know. It's very, very unlikely that things would come down the pike way, way later. How dare we need that? I'm just reading your guys' chats here. All right, Anthony's in here. He's in.
Anthony loves when I fuck up.
Yeah, well, they love the reality. It's like this is like a reality show sometimes. So here we go. This is.
I mean, I'm so sorry. I usually take my phone with me, but I had to let Rex out of the kennel and I fed the dogs. I went to the bathroom and I came back. Sorry.
Well, it's all fine. And
I know.
Thank you for the good job you normally do.
Oh my God, that I normally do.
All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you.
I have not been normal the last 2 days.
We've been jet lagged.
Really weirdly.
You didn't sleep last night, and
I did not. Yeah. But I mean, I feel stiff today too. Like
yeah, I'm having weird reactions.
I didn't get to work out. Is the problem. I'm starting to get rigor mortis is setting in after 2 weeks of not working out.
So are we in tomorrow?
I don't know. No. We have to go to Josh Flagg's fundraiser for Angel Food LA. And I think you're going to be on his show again.
Okay. So
and then maybe Saturday we can do something. And we'll just take questions. And because we didn't do it on Ask Dr. Drew. And I'll hopefully have the sound organized. Oh, my God. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. All right. So thank you, everybody. We will hopefully see you over the weekend. We'll be there maybe Saturday in the early afternoon. Okay? See you then.
Okay. Here we go. Yes. And we're out.
This Dose of Dr. Drew is produced by Susan Pinsky, and a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. The show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your physician, nor am I practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in imminent danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255 anytime 24/7. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.